Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sagana Bhavatu Saganau Bhunaktu Sagaviriyam Karavavagai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavagai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we are getting into a intriguing section wherein Lord Krishna is giving the final touches to the science of enlightenment, the science of liberation. He had mentioned the basic knowledge, and along with that he is mentioning the knowledge components, the requisite knowledge components which would facilitate, when duly observed by an individual, to his liberated state. So now in the next verse, verse number 64, Lord Krishna is mentioning how to live, with what frame of mind should you go about functioning in the world. And that is absolute, that frame of mind is absolutely necessary. It's a forerunner for all subsequent operations to be undertaken successfully. So therefore he mentions in verse number 64, Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaicharan Atmavashyer videyatma prasadam adhigachyati. So he is now speaking of the art of living. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu. Being free of raga likes, dvesha dislikes, being free of likes and dislikes, loves and hates. Then vishayan indriyaischara. A person is enjoined to go through the process of enabling his senses to be in contact with their respective sense objects, which is a very natural thing. With your eyes you perceive, with your ears you hear, as you keep on living your life and functioning in the world. But in so doing, he is enjoining a very important factor. That is to say, he is telling you to experience out whatever sensory experiences that you may have. without any raga and dvesha, without any likes and dislikes. That is to say, maintain a neutral frame of mind. A neutral frame of mind wherein you have neither likes, neither you are getting a pleasant, pleasurable or happy effect over the sensory input, nor are you having a dislike for it, but you're just maintaining, because so long as you have your human body and your senses open, you're constrained to come in contact with the world around you, to function in the world, go through your operations with your sense organs of action and hands and etc. And at the same time to experience various things with your other senses too. So in doing so, which is an inevitable process, because you have got to go about living your life, then during that time, see to it that you experience them without any likes or dislikes, by maintaining a calm, neutral frame of mind. Now, when you so maintain this frame of mind, what happens is that something remarkable transpires to you. Because every time you experience something in a normal sense, you are putting input into your mind. That input which you are putting into the mind is said to be ahara, the food. The food, ahara means the food. So when you experience something in a happy way, you are inputting a happy sensation or a pleasant sensation into your mind. Unpleasant, correspondingly so too. So you're inputting. So this is your ahara or the food. It is not that the food that you intake with your tongue and mouth, that's not the only food, that's only part of the food. But through all your 5 other sense organs, also 10 of them, you are having an input. And that ahara, that is the food, ahara, food. So that food should be pure, should be pure. It should not be vitiated by a corresponding likes and dislikes, loves and hates, but should be pure food indeed. So in order to have a pure intake of that experience, pure intake of that food, which is said to be ahara, so that is why it is said, ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhihi, sattva shuddhau dhruva smritihi. So ahara shuddhi. So this is the shuddhi or the purified food, ahara shuddhi, wherein with a neutral, balanced frame of mind, you are inputting. You are inputting sensations into your mind. So by that, what happens is ahara shuddha, sattva shuddhihi. So sattva is the antakarana or the mind stuff. Your mind gets purified by that process. So every time you correspondingly experience your sensations outside with this neutral frame of mind, you're undergoing a process wherein your input into your mind stuff is getting purified. Ahara shuddha, sattva, ahara shuddha, sattva shuddhihi, your antakarana or the mind gets purified. Sattva shuddha, dhruva smritihi. And when your mind gets purified, you will have the ability to remember and to experience a divine status subsequently. So therefore, this process is a very significant and pertinent way of experiencing life. That is to say, it is the application of Zen in life. Just experience, just see, just walk, just touch, just eat, just smell. So when you do this, this is called the living of Zen in your life. The living of Zen. So wherein you are maintaining a balanced frame of mind, and this brings about a purification of your internal mind stuff. So when it so happens, when it so transpires that by that, then what happens? Prasadam adhigacchati. You obtain prasadam. Prasadam here stands for, it has many meanings. One meaning is, which is a religious meaning, is sanctified food. That is one meaning, sanctified food. So when the food has been given to when you receive the food from the offerings that has been done to the divine, and when you partake of it, it's said to be sanctified food. You're receiving it, and that sanctified food is supposed to confer blessings upon you. So here also, when you so partake of these sensations, of experiences, then what happens is that food which you are receiving is sanctified food, which will go and purify your mind's nature, your mind nature. So ahara suddhau sattva suddhihi, and thereby prasadam, it is something which is benign. Prasadam here stands for, which is benign food for your mind. The word prasadam also stands for purity. Prasadam. Swachhata, it becomes pure. Your mind stuff becomes pure. So when your mind stuff becomes pure, mind stuff means your antakarana or the mind becomes pure. So when your mind stuff becomes pure, it will facilitate for you for your divine experience, because it's a clear mind. So this is how you obtain the purity of your mind stuff by nature. So thus, in this manner, he says, raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaishchara. So as you keep on going about experiencing various things of life, see to it that you experience them without likes and dislikes. And then at the same time, Atmavashya, in doing so, your Atmavashya, your body and your senses, your body and the senses are totally controlled. Atmavashya, Videya Atma, and your mind too, your mind stuff too, is also under control. So all these three, the body, the senses, and the mind is all well controlled indeed. So Atma Vashya Videya Atma. So such a person who is having control over his body, senses, and the mind stuff, then he obtains prasadam adhigacchati. He obtains the purity of mind, the swachhata, the clarity of mind transpires in him. So when everything is clear, the clarity dawns within you, you can perceive the truth, the inlying truth which is there within you. So therefore, this is, and then at the same time, when prasad, when your mind gets cleared and purified, then another thing happens to you. Prasannata. So prasannata means you attain to a state of mind which is well-pleased state of mind. A mind which is pleasant. A pleasant mind which is pleasant with itself. So when you have a pleasant mind which is pleasant with itself, automatically you would be in a very peaceful state. A peaceful state. So that is, so therefore, in order to bring about this peaceful or pleasant state of mind, you are asked to experience the phenomena of life around you with a neutral frame of mind. And this neutral frame of mind would generate this pleasant state of mind, and which is calm and serene. So then what happens when your mind is so calm and serene? Then the next verse says, 65, Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asya upajayate prasanna chetaso hi ashu buddhi pariyavatishtate. So prasade, when you obtain such a benediction, so it is you who will have to confer the benediction upon yourself by this way of living, by this august, sublime way of experiencing life. You tend to confer benediction upon yourself by getting your mind into a purified state or a clear state, or a pleasingly happy state or a pleasant state. So prasade, when the mind is in such a state, two things transpire. Sarva dukkhanam hanirasya upajayate. Then whatever irritations, unpleasantness, and sorrows which may have been in your mind prior to that, they all get cleared. They all get cleared. The ruffles which are there in your mind nature. Of course, you know that in your mind you have got various forms of ruffles, which is ruffling and disturbing the tranquil state of your mind. So by this process, the tranquil state of mind clears all the ruffles. Sarva dukkhanam hanirasya upajayate. So that transpires. So your mind is now in a very serene, pleasant, calm, and happy state of mind. When I use the word happy, it means it is pleasant, it is in a pleasant state of mind. Now, this pleasant state of mind is a very important state. Don't imagine that the yogis who go through or the hermits, or the monks, or the nuns who go through their practices, are going through that process in a dejected, angry, irritated manner. Certainly not. Certainly not. Get it out. It is not so. And they cannot do it if they are in that condition. So therefore, through this process, they attain a, shall we say, happy frame of mind. In fact, one of the things that I observed when I was living amongst the Swamis and Sadhus of the Himalayan region, we were about 1,000 there. And one thing I tell you about them, they were a happy bunch. Whatever it be, they had very little with them, but in spite of all that, they were a happy lot. So that is that prasannada that. So therefore, and each one of them was practicing in his own way, his own discipline. And that brought about a certain amount of tranquility in nature, a tranquil nature. So now what happens is, when you arrive at this tranquil nature, the ruffles and they get cleared out of your mind stream. And secondly, prasanna chetaso hi ashu, and thereby something very significant transpires. Buddhihi prasanna chetaso hi ashu buddhihi pari avatishtate. Parisamantat avastishtate. Your mind Your mind, intellect, buddhi, the mind and the mind come intellect. What happens to it? Parisamantat avatishtate. It abides or remains in a state, in a tranquil state, everywhere. Everywhere. Parisamantat avatishtate. All over, everywhere. It maintains a state of mental equilibrium without any ruffles, without any agitations. Naturally, like a placid lake, which is very calm when there are no waves. Absolutely, their mind, at this point, it remains in a very tranquil state without any limits or limitations. And at this time, at this point, now this statement is a very significant term which has been used in the Bhagavad Gita. What transpires by this? What is the implication of this phrase when it mentions that your mind, buddhi, parisamantat avatishtate, it abides in a calm, serene manner everywhere. By this, what Lord Krishna is indicating is that your mind has attained a synchronicity with the ever-existent Brahman, the divine, which is there within you. So by this process, your mind has now taken the configuration, or is in synchronicity, or we can use another term for it. It has attained to a state wherein it is in conformity with the divine, with Brahman, which is said to be the Atman. Atman is Brahman, Brahman is Atman. So with Brahman. Now, what is the Brahman is the term which has been used in the Hindu scriptures, the Upanishads, and Vedantic structure, is a term used for the divine, for God. And the meaning of that word is, it has a meaning. Brahman doesn't mean that it's a person. It's not a person. It's not a being. Remember this very carefully. It's neither a person nor a being, but it has got consciousness. And it is, the definition for this is Brihatvat, Bringhanatvat, Brahmaniti. Brihatvat. Brihatvat means that which has no limits, which is everywhere, which is all over. That is why the popular phrase is that God is everywhere. That's what it means. God is everywhere. So God's beingness is everywhere, spread everywhere. And without any limits, it has no boundaries. It has no boundaries. It has no beginning in time, no end in time, no beginning in space, no end in space. But it is everywhere. It is everywhere. And wherever the universe is, there it is. Wherever the universe is, there it is. So therefore, when you attain to this state when your mind attains to this state of calmness, of serenity, that automatically and spontaneously your mind is in conformity with the nature of Brahman, the divine, which is everywhere. Because there is nothing to limit or bound or bind your mind. Your mind has now attained to an unbounded state. Brahman too is unbounded, unlimited. So when your mind is calm and tranquil, spontaneously, automatically, your mind is in conformity with the very character and nature of Brahman, of the divine. Then at that time, all that you have to do, you have got to remain there and be aware of it. That's all. Be simply aware in that state. And when you are being so and doing so, that is why the word sthita prajna has been used. Your prajna, your awareness has become settled and is now fortified, firmly established in the nature of your in the nature of your divine nature. In your divine nature, your mind is now settling down. So that is why the word pariavatisthate has been used. It is unbounded, unlimited. Just as Brahman is unbounded and unlimited, so also your mind too has become unbounded and unlimited, and thereby it has attained to the conformity of what Brahman is, what the divine is. So therefore, this statement is pregnant with enormous spiritual implications. It's so simple, and yet it is very profound. It's very profound, simple. So that is why when you are quiet, the biblical statement too says, be still and know that I am God. So here now you have become totally still. And when can you become totally still? When you are totally at peace. When you are totally in a state of tranquility, then you are at peace and you are still, mentally still. And when you are in this condition, when you are in this state, all that you have to do is be aware. Be still and know that I am God. It's an Old Testament statement. Be aware. And as you become more and more aware, your prajna, your awareness is getting firmly established in your Atman, which is Brahman. And then gradually, by and by, in due course, as you keep on practicing it, eventually you will settle down and experience your divine nature. So therefore, this simple thing, a simple practice has got such enormous implications in your life. So when you keep on experiencing everything without loves and hates, likes and dislikes, then your mind has become calm and tranquil. And in this calm and tranquil state, automatically, your mind is in conformity with your Atman or divine or Brahman nature. So it's a remarkable state indeed. Now you may in this state is what is called as meditation. In Vedantic terminology, you can call it as nididhyasana. Which means Brahmakara vritti. Your mind has taken the akara, the form of the formless Brahman. has taken the character of the formless Brahman. Your mind has assumed the nature of the formless Brahman. When you so maintain this calm state, it's a very remarkable state indeed. And for normal people, it's the most difficult thing to do, because their mind is in constant turbulence with their desires and passions and likes and dislikes. So all that has to be, which has to be done is to calm down everything. And the first step is to move about in the world. Now, this is an exercise. To move about in the world, that's the initial stage, without likes and dislikes. So thus, indeed, this awareness, prasanna chetaso hi asu, buddhi pariavatishtate. So it is now reposing in the Atman. Then, in the next verse, he says something intriguing. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, nacha ayuktasya bhavana, nacha abhavayataha shantihi, ashantasya kutaha sukham. Nasti buddhi ayuktasya. So the person, for the person, ayukta, who has not got control over his body, mind, and the senses. So that's the initial stage. So when a person does not have that, nasti buddhi ayuktasya. So when you don't have that control over your senses and your mind, then what happens? The good mind does not arise. Nasti buddhi ayuktasya. The good mind which was promised to you by practicing and maintaining or overcoming your likes and dislikes, by maintaining a neutral frame of mind. So by maintaining a neutral frame of mind, you will attain to a good state of mind. Such a good state of mind will not transpire if you do not nacha ayuktasya. If you don't practice this initial. So initial process is this: the body, the senses, and the mind. And along with that, one more thing has to be under control. You're living too. 4 things that go together. The living of your life has to be disciplined. Your body has to be disciplined. Your senses have to be disciplined, and your mind too. So all 4 have to be brought into good order. So you're so regulating them for a purpose, for a particular purpose, and the purpose is a glorious purpose. So in order to realize your divine status, you are now going through the process, operation of disciplining these 4 factors: your life, your body, your senses, and the mind. So only when you discipline them, so will you get a good mind. So that's why he said, Nasti buddhi, the good mind, the good intellect does not come to a person unless he goes through this. Then, nacha ayuktasya bhavana. And for a person who hasn't got a good mind, a good intellect transpires, and a good mind transpires or comes by with purity of nature. Purity of nature enables the mind to be a good mind. And the purity of nature, the good mind, can only be acquired if you were to experience the phenomena of your life around you in a good, neutral way. So one is leading to the other. And thereby, when you have got this good mind, well and good. But in case you don't have this good mind, nacha ayuktasya bhavana. It is not possible. If you don't have this good, pure, clean mind, then nacha ayuktasya bhavana. Bhavana here stands for to get into a meditative state. To get into a meditative state, it is not possible. Nacha? Huh? Ayuktasya. So you can't get into meditation very easily because it will always get disturbed. And then, along with meditation, one more thing. When you keep on practicing meditation, by and by, you will get into a state of samadhi. Samadhi means you will be totally absorbed in that state. And that will also not transpire. That state also will not come along to you. Nacha abhavayataha. And for the person who is not in a meditative state, how can he obtain shanti? He cannot attain to a state of peace. So it is only when you get into meditation, the final peace or the bliss, which passeth all understanding, the divine experience will not transpire unless you go through this process. And then ashantasya kutaha sukham. And for the person who has not obtained this peace, where is sukha indeed? Where is happiness? You know very well, the world is full of its own pricks and pins. You get pricks and you get pricked. So where is this peace? Where is this sukham indeed? So the living of life itself, it can be a turbulent thing, torturous thing. So kutaha sukham, where can there be perennial bliss for this, happiness for this person? So therefore, one leads to the other. That is to say, if you want to attain mukti or liberation, now we go into the reverse order. We begin from the top. The top is mukti or liberation. From there we come down. So in order to get liberated, what should you do? First of all, the first step is to obtain good knowledge. The good knowledge, you need the good knowledge, the good understanding. So once you have got the good understanding via the scriptures, then thereafter you can apply that good knowledge. Now, if you do not apply this good knowledge and get into a practice of samadhi, it will not work. It will not work because good knowledge by itself will not lead you to liberation, because your mind is beset with many other problems. So therefore, you have got to, because you have got to contrary awareness, you still have, shall we use the word, two very strong impressions are embedded within you. However much you are told that you are the divine, and you have been so educated with this good knowledge, you cannot immediately experience it because of two contrary powerful impressions which are there lying lurking within you, latent within you. One is all the worldly impressions, and the second is the I impression. You may call it the ego impression, the impression that I am an individual. These two impressions are very strongly pronounced in every person. So these two impressions have to be cleared totally. So in order to clear these two impressions, all the worldly impressions which are lying dormant in your mind, and also the I impression, I ego impression, which is also lying there in your mind. So these two have to be cleared with all the other impulses, because you have got so many other impulses too. All those impulses have to be cleared out of you. So therefore, enlightenment will not take place even though you are told that you are the divine. So therefore, the preparation is needed. So in order to prepare yourself, you've got to now practice getting into meditation. As you keep on meditating, you will get into a state of samadhi. You will get into a samadhi. So now, in order to get into samadhi, you can't straight away get into samadhi. Because unless you check your senses, unless indriya nigraha, the control of the sense organs and the control of the mind and the body take place, you cannot get into samadhi. So they become an inevitable prerequisite condition. Sense control, mind control, body control. All these three things and life control. So all these four factors are necessary for you to successfully get into a state of intense meditation. Now, this is also only possible, sense control over your senses is only possible if you are able to overcome likes and dislikes, which we had mentioned earlier, raga, dvesha, likes and dislikes. So the starting point is there, likes and dislikes. Because the foundation of your life is based on that. Likes and dislikes, joys and sorrows, success and failure, happiness and sorrow. So these are the two dualities, polarities, which you have to overcome. So in order to overcome them, initially he says, you got raga and dvesha. Likes and dislikes have to be overcome by you when you are going through the operations of experiencing the world. So this will help you to obtain control of your senses, which in turn will help you to get into a meditative state. And when you get into a meditative state, that will enable you to get into a state of samadhi or mystic absorption. And the state of mystic absorption will lead you to enlightenment. So that is how the sequence follows. So that is why Lord Krishna began in verse number 64 that you have got to become free of likes and dislikes, because it is so significant. So when you can overcome that, your mind becomes tranquil and it now gets settled down in your Brahman nature. So therefore, in verse number 67, he says, Indriyanami charatam yanmano anuvidiyate tadasi harati prajnam vayur nava iva ambasi. But for the person, Indriyanam hi charatam, the person who carelessly, without due control, he moves amongst the sense objects, Indriyanam hi charatam. For he moves about. Without any control. Yen mano anuvidiyate, and his mind follows too. So this person moves about the various sense objects and with his sense organs, and along with it, his mind also follows him. It follows this person. Yen mano anuvidiyate tadasi harati prajnam vayur nava iva ambasi. For such a person, his prajna means his awareness. His awareness which wants to settle down in his Brahman nature, in the Atman or Brahman, that is not possible for him. Just like what? Just like Tadasi Harati Prajnam Vayur Nava Iva Ambasi. Just like a boat, a small boat. In the olden days, they had small boats. Nava Iva Ambasi, in the ocean. In the ocean, the boat gets tossed about when there is a wind. It flounders in the ocean waters when there is a wind. So here also this person, when his senses are not under control, checked by the mind, then this person too flounders in the ocean of life, like the boat which flounders in the ocean. His prajna, his awareness is taken away. This awareness, prajnam, his awareness which he was supposed to maintain in the Atman, such an awareness has been robbed or taken away by the sense organs wherein the mind was following it. The mind was giving permission to the sense organs. So it's the mind which is giving permission to the sense organs to roam amongst the sense objects. So similarly also, therefore, it's an uncontrolled sense mind which follows the senses wherever the senses roam. So for such a person, his prajna, his awareness, is not possible for him to settle his awareness in the Atman or Brahman. So that is why he says that they have to be controlled. Then, tasmat yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyani indriyartebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. In verse number 68. Therefore, tasmat, O Arjuna, yasya, O Mahabaho, O Arjuna, therefore, O Arjuna. So he is now addressing Arjuna as Mahabaho. So Mahabaho means mighty armed. Arjuna, thou art not an ordinary person. You are a great warrior who have conquered your enemies. Similarly, also here too, you too could conquer your sense organs. Your sense organs, along with the mind, you could obtain control and conquer over them.
You've got mail.
So therefore, he's addressing him as saying, Mahabaho, don't worry about it, Arjuna. You are capable of this. So therefore, he says, Tasmat, therefore, yasya nigrihitani sarvashaka. He whose mind is controlled, his sense organs, indriyani indriyartebhya, his sense organs are controlled from their respective sense objects. Indriyani indriyartebhya. So the senses have got a natural character to come in contact with their corresponding sense objects. So he who is capable of nigrihitani sarva, he who is capable of controlling them with his disciplined awareness. With his disciplined awareness. And what is this disciplined awareness? To maintain a neutral frame of mind. Not to get fascinated or distressed by their respective sense experiences, but to maintain a neutral frame of mind. And wherever you find an experience which is unbecoming, you, like a tortoise, you withdraw your sense organs and contain it within yourself so that they do not have that sensory input, a wrong input filtering into you. So such a person who is so able to do so, he says, Tasya prajna pratishtita. His prajna awareness gets well established in the Atman or Brahman. So now by this, earlier it was asked certain pertinent questions by Arjuna. What is the description of this person whose prajna awareness is settled in the Atman? How does he talk? Kim prabhasheta? Kim asita? How does he sit? Vrijeta kim? How does he move about? How does he move about has been explained in the last 4 verses. So he moves about with a certain amount of restraint in his nature and functions. How does he sit? Kim asita? How does he sit? Of course, he sits by abiding in the Atman. That's how he sits. Simply sitting, doing nothing. He sits in his Atman nature. Kim asita? How does he sit? So all those characteristics are being enumerated here, that in this manner, in a controlled manner, in a disciplined manner, he functions in the world with indrawn vision. His vision is indrawn. And he moves about and partakes of things in the world indeed. So thus, in this way, Lord Krishna has enumerated the characteristics of a sthita prajna in these verses. The person who is sthita prajna, whose awareness is well settled or is settling down, in the Atman, the person who is settling down in the Atman. So the process of settling down, the relevant associated practices are being enumerated here. What corresponding disciplines have to be gone through, or needful things which have to be exercised, so that one's awareness would settle down in one's own Atman, which is Brahman indeed. So that has been so far mentioned. Then the balance we'll see tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll be complete